Hey, Wargamers! Purple Druid presents Wargame Culture, and today we're going to take a look inside Dawn of Battle, which is a fantastic hex and chit style war game slash board game, and it looks a little bit like Commands and Colors, but it also looks a little bit like your traditional hex and chit game. This is not a traditional unboxing because I've already played the game and I've already pulled out the chits and popped them and put them into a little trays. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside. First of all, this is just the way I packed it after the last time I played. So this is what we got. So first, we have our game board, which is pretty good sized. I should know the dimensions, but I don't. But that's all right. So here's the game board. It's big. It's bigger than my card table anyway. And it contains a bunch of numbered hexes, which is nice because that helps you to lay out the forces when it's time for the game. You also have a couple of trackers. There's an Army Panic track. There's a turn track. And then we have the elephant effect table and the unit size movement effects and combat modifiers over there. So some of the things you need as a quick reference are right there on the board. So that's a nice feature. Let's see, what do we got here? Let's do heavy infantry. So the chits look like this. They come in a couple of different sizes. That one is a rectangle for heavy infantry. We have a little square for the light infantry. The command units are a vertical rectangle. And let's see here. It looks like there's an elephant too. The elephant is actually just a little bit bigger than the heavy infantry. So it kind of gives you a little visual clue, not, in beyond the silhouette that's on the chip. So there's two forces are included with the game, of course. You have light infantry, heavy infantry, etc., chariots. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. And I'm trying to find, here we go. So you have a red force and a blue force, which makes things easy. And so those are the game components themselves. Also included with the box, we have a couple of player reference sheets that have some rules. Identify the units because it takes a little bit to memorize those. My memory's not what it was. And this is the Clash of Shields table. So, for instance, if you have the attacker as heavy infantry and they're going against light infantry, they get a +2 on their combat result. So there are two of these that come with the game, which is awesome. We have the rule book, which is very well written, and I'm pleased to say is in the case format, like the old SPI games. It's all in full color, which is fantastic. There's a complete list of all the pieces. And then the rules are laid out in a very easy to read fashion and are quickly referenced during the game when you need to know something. For example, Arc of Fire, we have light archers here. And so the way the hexes are laid out, it creates an Arc of Fire that is impossible to mess up. And there are no disputes as to whether someone is in the Arc of Fire or not. We have the melee combat area. We have your leadership, camps, and war wagons, which are a lot of fun. Victory points. There are some supplementary rules to be used depending on the type of game that you're playing. And there's also quite a few scenarios that are included with this. We'll get to that in just a second here. there's also some rules in here for terrain, hill terrain, that sort of thing. The board, as you can see, is just a flat green game board. And there is no terrain included with the game. That does come with an expansion that is available. And there's a link to that down below. Now, you also get a scenario book that has, I believe, 20 scenarios in it. And they are all historical battles. And apparently they go from all the way back in 1500 BC. Well, this one's 1046 BC to 1500 AD. So that's pretty cool. And it gives you your list of forces. It shows you how to deploy. I have an after action report for this battle of Pelusium on the Substack. It's a free post. Everyone can look at it. I have a link in the description, and I encourage you to go over there and take a look. This is a great game. It's a lot of fun, and it goes very quickly. For Pelusium, it only lasted 3 turns before the Persians wiped out the Egyptian commanders. Excuse me. So that was pretty interesting. But like I said, there's a lot of scenarios in here. But one thing they all have in common is they're just played on a plain board, which is too bad because I really wish that the terrain had been included with the basic game. Now, that being said, I am probably going to make my own terrain. I've already made some river pieces because I had some extra blank hexagons that fit right into these hexes, which was pretty cool. And I'll show you those in just a second. So the last part of the game, you do get a tray, which is pretty cool because it comes with an assortment of play aids. The only problem is it's tricky to get out of the box. So let's see if I can do it without spilling this stuff all over the place. All right. So here we go. There are cards, there are markers. When you move or activate your units, they will get a yellow marker if they move and or fire. And that lets you know that you can still do melee with those units. If perhaps during your turn you have some troops that move and perhaps they're disrupted or something else, or whatever else goes on, they may be able to do other things. Like for instance, if they move and shoot, then they are not able to melee, so they'll get a red cube. We have camps. There are rules for these. If a unit gets into the enemy camp, they get extra victory points, and they will also cause a morale problem for the army whose camp is being looted. And so, like I said, I had these white cardboard hexagons. I honestly don't remember where I got them, but they are the right size. Well, I know where I got them. I got them from Print and Play Games. I just don't know why. But in any case, they had these sitting around, so I glued a picture of some grassland to the hexes and cut them out. That was a very painstaking thing. I will not be doing that again. And then I painted a brown line and then a blue line over it to make rivers. So we have a whole bunch of river hexes here. I want to say there's probably about 20 that I made. So these are kind of cool. And I'm going to make some others. I am going to order some more hexes that are pre-printed. It's a little more expensive that way, but it will save hours and hours of effort in handcrafting these. So I think I'll make some towns as well because we can play around with the scale. The tokens or chits, they don't really have a scale. It doesn't tell you, this is 100 men or this is 200 men or what have you. You can kind of scale these any way you want, because technically speaking, with any miniature war game, as long as the scale is the same from stand to stand or from chit to chit, it doesn't matter if they're companies, regiments, divisions, what have you. So we can play a variety of scales with the same chits. My rubber band broke. Also included with the game are 2 decks of cards. And this is the engine. This is the engine that drives the game. Let's get these out of the way. You draw a card at the beginning, and the die result number is for initiative. And then you draw another card, and you get 1 action point for each of the action points on your commander. So for instance, this commander has a 2 in the laurel, so he gets 2 action points, and then we get 2 more for this card. So that would give him 4 actions that he can order the troops to perform during his turn. And then when it's time for a battle, you draw another card. And say, for instance, we have archers, which I didn't get any out. The archers roll a 3. The enemy archers roll a 5, or the enemy target rolls a 5. So in that case, there would be no effect. Let's see here if there's a smaller one. If the enemy's die roll is lower, then they can be disrupted, and if it's a lot lower, they can be destroyed. So that's a quick and easy way. And that also is one of my complaints about this game, really my only complaint about this game, because I miss rolling the dice. I wish you could roll the dice. Also, I'm not sure. You can see there's 3 colors of dice there, and I don't know the rules well enough yet to... Oh, here's a 4th color. Look at that. To know if the colors on the die make any difference. So I will need to look into that, at least in the games that I've played already. We have played 2 games. I played them in person with another an in real life player at the hobby store, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, again, I'm not sure. I haven't played enough to know if there's a reason for that. I'm sure there is. And if you know what the reason is, you'll leave a comment below, I'm sure. And the way that combat works is actually so easy. This is our heavy infantry on the blue side. They command or control. There's a zone of control. They have these 2 hexes here. And say we have some light infantry here. If you move your heavy infantry up here on your turn, you then can, after all the activations are done and all the troops have moved, then any troops that are in adjacent hexes like so are able to have a melee. Now, these light infantry were turned in that direction. Their zone of control would be these 2. The blue heavy infantry, their zone of control are these 2, which means that the light infantry are being attacked in the flank. But for the sake of this, we'll leave it like that for the sake of this example. And let me get out the blue cards. So our heavy infantry are going to attack. They have an attack value of 5. The light infantry have an attack value of 3. That's not quite twice. So that's going to be a +1 to the combat result. Now you're on the flank, so that gives you another +1. So that'll be a total of +2. And then we'll look at the Clash of Shields table. And you can see here, this is the attacking unit on the top. So heavy infantry versus light infantry is a +2. So that'll give us a grand total of +4 for the combat. So what that means is each side flips a card. And you take a look at the melee results table here. So on the blue side is a +4. That means they are disrupted and they have to take a morale check, and they get a +1 to that morale check. So for the red results, they go to -4, which is their standing compared to these. And so they will cause a morale check at -1 for the blue side. So the red side will make their morale check at +1. And they draw this card. Aha, look at that. It's a 1. Fantastic. And depending on their leader, they may or may not pass the morale check. This particular red leader, his leadership is 1. That means the red forces need a 1 to pass any morale checks. Because there's a +1 due to the result of 4, that means that this group will fail the morale check and they'll be disrupted. So you'll flip that chip over. Now, according to the first thing here on the -4, the heavy infantry need to make a morale check and they get a -1, which means that their morale check will be a little bit easier. Their commander has a leadership of 3. And so what that means is we'll draw a card. There we go. That's a 3. So they would have passed anyway, but they have, according to the chart here, a -1. So that gives them a 2. So they definitely passed the morale check. And so they will not be disrupted and they'll be able to attack again on the subsequent turn. And that's it. That's how fast it goes. Boom, boom, boom. You just draw cards, check the appropriate area for the result, and the game moves very quickly. Even if you have 5 or 6 melees on the board and you've already done, 3 or 4 or 5 archery missile attacks, bam, it really goes fast and is a lot of fun. I really like the way that maneuver is important. I've always been a fan of maneuver in war games. And so, in my opinion, this game has a lot of potential for a lot of nuance, and you can really, I think, get involved not only with playing the game against an opponent, and striving in that sense, but I believe that you could use this very easily in a campaign situation, make up your own scenarios, create your own terrain or buy them from the website. And I mean, just the possibilities are enormous. There's also one more thing. Stand by for 1 second. I don't think you really need the hexes. I think you can play this game with your troops on the board. And you can pretend, as it were, or use your imagination, whichever word you'd like to use, that these are stands of regular miniatures. And you can play this game without the hexes. You can use your normal miniature terrain. And I happen to have this ruler because it just happens to be just the right size for their chit. And so you can just measure, their movement rate is 3. So I can move this unit 1, 2, 3. And there you go. And then you have a little more flexibility regarding facing. The one trick is that you don't have the same automatic measure for your archery or missiles. But again, you can make a template for that. That's at a 60-degree angle. And that would be something you could just lay down very easily. And you can still do, you can move and turn and do flank attacks, that sort of thing. You don't even really have to be in base contact if you don't want to, depending. And, just whatever rules you want to use for movement, you can play around with those. So, again, this is a great game. I think it's got a lot of potential, a lot of flexibility, and you will definitely be seeing some Let's Play videos in the future. So, thanks for watching. Be sure and hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate the growth that this channel had in 2023, and I'm looking forward to more growth this year. Be sure and check out the after action report for the first game that is on the Substack, wargameculture.substack.com. And we'll see you again soon. Keep on gaming.